Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad you could all join us this fine Tuesday morning, although it is a bit chilly outside, so everyone is keeping warm and doing well. So, yes, we can start now. So, hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Mitch Kaniero, and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. You know, during these webinars, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the markets, we identify what trading opportunities we are taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So as usual, we do have John in the back office, so he'll be here to assist with whatever questions or queries you might have. So feel free to ask those questions either in the Q&A section or in the chat box. John will respond to you, but however, if you do ask them in the Q&A section, which would be a better place because I will be addressing all those questions at the end of the webinar. So let's jump straight into it. So as usual, we start off, hopefully you can see my screen. And let's start off, as usual, with our watch list. So with our watch list yesterday we were looking for selling opportunities on the Swiss franc, the Canadian dollar, as well as the US dollar. And we were mixing and matching those with pairs on the buy side. So that was the Australian dollar, the euro, the British pound, the New Zealand dollar, as well as the Japanese yen. However, today you can see there's been a small difference. Remember, there were some Swiss franc fundamentals that did come yesterday. They did end up bringing in strength to the Swiss franc. So the Swiss franc has moved to the buy side for today. So our focus will only be on selling the Canadian dollar as well as the US dollar. So we're going to mix and match these two pairs with all the pairs on the buy side before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So as usual, before we end up looking at today's pairs, we look at the pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today, see what happened, whether or not we could have been able to take some opportunities there. Before we do look at a few screenshots, then we'll jump on to today's pairs. So we'll start off here with the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, in this kind of pair yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Now, during this session, you can see the market seems to be in some sort of range, or at least it started off as a channel, moving into some sort of range. So we wanted to see if we could get the price breaching and holding above within this area, we could have looked for a buy. But you can see every time the price tried to go up, it came straight back in. So there was no trading opportunity for us yet. Wanted to see whether or not the price was going to be able to come all the way down to the bottom area. Unfortunately, it could not. Around 4:30, it did end up bouncing off this small bias area, attempting to break this area to the upside. But you can see once it held below, there was some risk there. And due to the fact that Swiss franc fundamentals had switched up, and that's why you can see the way the market is coming down. But this also has something to do with the Australian dollar, which is showing us a lot of weakness today. There's been no fundamental to show us why. So there's a possibility that these movements, why we're seeing some Australian dollar weakness, could be a pullback to a specific area based on a larger time frame, and we could see that strength coming in later on. But for now, this is a pair that is off our watch list for today. So moving on to the next Swiss franc pair that we did have yesterday, but we're not going to be looking at today. We did have the euro against the Swiss franc. Now, at least on this kind of pair, the pair did work out quite well. You can see the areas that we did end up highlighting. So we did want either a breach to the upside and the price holding above for us to look for a buying opportunity, or we needed a pullback. And you can see the pullback did come in quite nicely. Came in within this buyer's area, gave a nice probe where you can see once the price came to the upside, there was a pullback confirming that the price is actually holding above. So you could have looked for a buying opportunity there. And you can see if you didn't manage your trade within the top area, that would have been a good place. Even though the price attempted to go to the upside, you can clearly see when it came back in, it never held above. It actually came back in and held below, making this a probe. So unfortunately for us, these are pair that's going to be off our watch list. And you can see the way this price is coming down. This has something to do with the Swiss franc showing a strength as well. So unfortunately, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. So moving on to the next Swiss franc pair, we did have the British pound against the Swiss franc. In this kind of pair, we were looking for buying opportunities, a similar situation. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out. We're lucky that during the London session, we did end up getting a pullback where you can see the market attempted to come all the way down to the bottom area. Fortunately, it just missed slightly, came and held within some sort of small bias area right here. So some small support and resistance. You can see there was an area where there were sellers. The fact that the buyers bounced off from there, you can see that's exactly where the buyers ended up reacting at 3 o'clock, giving us a small buying opportunity, making sure we should have managed our trade within the top area right here. But you can see the similar correlation coming in with the Swiss franc pairs, where the market did not manage to continue going to the upside. This is a Swiss franc showing strength, and this is the reason why this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. So I hope that's clear on what happened with the British pound against the Swiss franc. So moving on to the next kind of pair, We do have the New Zealand dollar against Swiss franc. Now, this pair, remember yesterday we were looking for buying opportunities. But when we were looking at this chart, the price did end up actually looking as if it was breaking this area to the downside. But remember, we did say we want confirmation because it wasn't yet at breach unless it held below. And you can see on this pullback, the fact that the price held below, this pair did fall off our watch list. And you can see as the price started coming down lower, it confirmed that during the US session, that the price was actually going pulled below. And you can see the Swiss franc strength really continuing to come in. It's not that this is the reason why this pair is going to be off our watch list, and the reason why it's going down has something to do with also the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar are both showing a bit of weakness at the moment, and similar situation with the Swiss franc showing strength. But you could find, based on a higher time frame, that the markets actually may be pulling back to an extreme buyer's area before the markets react. But unfortunately, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. So last but not least, we did have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. Similar situation, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities, and you can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Remember, I did say that trade this with caution, just mainly because the yen pairs, we don't know when that government intervention is going to come back in. But you can see we did end up getting a pullback. Unfortunately, could not get all the way to our main sellers area, but you can see the timings. Around 4:30, that's when the price actually started coming down, holding within this small buyers area. So remember, small sellers area. Remember, we always say the markets are within a buyers or sellers area. Within one of the market opening times, could end up finding a nice trading opportunity. So you can see it did manage to come down. Unfortunately, could not break this level. You can see as the price came down lower, we did hold below. There could have been another potential selling opportunity, but the fact that the price came in, there was no more sales, and you can see the pullback that's coming in, which has something to do with the Swiss franc strength. And that's the reason why this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. So the Swiss franc pairs did not necessarily perform as well. Possibly the euro and the British pound did show a bit of strength yesterday, which did end up working out for us. So that's it for all the pairs for review. So before we do jump on today's pairs, we'll end up looking at a few screenshots that we did manage to get. So here we'll start off with Alice. Alice, you did manage to grab a buying opportunity on the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Very nice buy right there. It could have been better, obviously, if it was within a higher point. But once it did end up breaking that seller's area, up to see you did manage to grab that buy. Already the price going up in your favor, and very good trade management with your stop loss already above your entry. So very, very good job on this trade, Alice, and keep up the good work that you're doing. So also next, we did get Christine. Christine, you managed to grab a very nice buying opportunity on gold. You did manage to grab the one buy right here. It seems that your other buy was just missed, unfortunately. So you do need to end up taking into consideration spread as well. So sometimes, especially when you're putting a buy limit, you sometimes need to put it a bit higher, because in order for that trade to be triggered, price has to go a bit lower than your price to take into consideration the spread for your trade to be triggered. So that's unfortunate, but I'm happy to see you did manage to grab another buying opportunity. Manage the trade well with your stop loss above your entry. And it's a good thing you did not put it at the support and resistance area, because the market could pull back there and continue going to the upside. So very good trade management. And you mentioned that this trade actually hit your take profit. So very, very good job on this trade, Christine. And keep up the good work that you're doing. So also next, we did get George. George Chege did manage to grab a buying opportunity on the British pound against the Japanese yen. Very nice buy, because you can remember we did point out that we wanted to see a pullback coming in before we were able to look for sales, and the fact that we were in some sort of range. So happy to see you did manage to grab the buying opportunity from the bottom after the market seemed to have been breached, or at least probed within that bottom area. And happy to see you got a very nice buying opportunity, stop loss above your entry as well. And you can see you've already managed some of your trades. So even if it comes back and hits your take profit, also your stop loss, at least you've come up with money on this. And if it continues going up in your favor, at least you've maximized on this trade. So very, very good job on this trade, George Chege. And you also did grab a buying opportunity on gold. Similar situation, I guess once the price did end up holding within the seller's area, and once it reached the upside, they grab a very nice buying opportunity. Now you can see the fact that the price is already back within an area where the sellers. This is a good place either to close some of your position or at least move your stop loss a bit higher. Knowing gold can sometimes go, it looks like it's all the way in your favor, and it ends up coming down. So you never want to turn a trade that's a winner into a loser. So that's the reason why we always encourage, make sure at least by the time that the price has gone up a good amount of pips, at least your stop loss is at break even. So very, very good job on this trade, George. Keep up the great work that you're doing, and thank you for sending in the screenshots. So remember, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are there in the chat box. So let's jump into today's pairs. So right now, we'll start off with the Canadian dollar pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side and do the same thing with the US dollar before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So let's start off with the first Canadian dollar pair, which we do have, which is the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, yesterday our bias was to look for buying opportunities. Unfortunately, the market did not necessarily move as much. You can clearly see we seem to be have been in some sort of range where the price did end up coming up, and you can see just bouncing between these two levels the whole of yesterday. So no real movement that did end up happening. It's today where the market has started pulling back down, which is okay, because remember, we did point out that the Australian dollar pairs are showing a bit of weakness, but it could have something to do with them pulling back to a very interesting area for us to look for a buying opportunity. You can see the illustration that we had pointed out yesterday. Maybe it might end up happening today, because you can see we're also within some sort of small support and resistance area. So overall, our bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. Remember, we did point out as long as we're holding above the red support and resistance area, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. You can see right now we've reached and we're held below this particular area. So no buying opportunity just yet. You can see we do have the main sellers right there at the top. So if you do end up looking at the momentum of the sellers, you can see how aggressive they came down. There was a pullback, which is okay, and the price held below. But look at the strength of how they're coming in now. It would seem as if they're coming in slowly, which is a good sign for us. The more the sellers slow down, where they can't necessarily go any lower. So if you do see the price coming back in and you see aggressive buyers showing their face, and you see the sellers really struggling to come down, we could end up looking for a buying opportunity. Obviously, making sure to manage our trade within the first problem area, or if you do miss that trade, if the market ends up being able to breach and you do get the pullback coming in and holding above, then we should be able to look for a buying opportunity there as well. But for right now, we just need to be a bit patient. Let's see how these pullbacks come in. And remember, do trade the Australian dollar with caution, or at least have a look at the correlation happening with the Australian dollar pairs. You see them starting to move to the upside where they start showing strength. Have a look at the other ones. If you do see that, you could end up finding some nice trading opportunities based on this kind of pair. But for now, let's just be a bit patient. Let's see how far the market can come down before we're able to look for our buying opportunities. But remember, if the price breaks and holds below the red support and resistance area, this pair will fall off our watch. So hope that's clear in the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So let's move on to the next Canadian dollar pair we do have, which is the euro against the Canadian dollar. Remember, I did point out the euro and the British pound did end up showing strength. So those are the pairs that really did work out for us. So you can see the three areas that we had pointed out yesterday, looking for buying opportunities. Now, initially, the market looked as if it was breaking this area to the upside. So we wanted to see, it wasn't confirmed yet until the price actually held above. So you can see during the London session, it did end up holding above, but not real big movement to the upside. It did end up attempting to go to the upside at around 12, which is a good sign for us because you can see the market did manage to pull back. So that is a confirmation that that level has actually been broken. And you can see on the pullback, the price came back within the support and resistance area at 3 o'clock. So you could have gone to a smaller time frame to be able to look for an entry within this particular area for you to be able to look for buying opportunities. So that worked out nicely during the US session. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. And you can see where we are within an area where the sellers, so that's not a good place for us to look for any buying opportunities just yet. So we'll be focusing to see if we can grab any buying opportunities based on these two areas. So right now, since we're within a seller's area, nothing for us to do unless we either get the price breaching and holding above. That's when we can be able to continue looking for those buying opportunities. But right now, the way the market has held within this area, what we'll be hoping to see is if we can end up getting that pullback coming in, giving us some sort of probe or price action signal within this particular buyer's area, or if we find the price within this buyer's area within one of the market's opening times, either 10, 3, or 4:30, we could end up finding a very nice buying opportunity on the euro against the Canadian dollar. So wait to see what ends up happening. But right now, we'll just be on the sidelines as we wait for either the buyers to show up or the sellers to give us a better price for us to look for buyers later on. So hope the game plan is clear. Not looking at the euro against the Canadian dollar, waiting for those pullbacks as we move on to the next Canadian dollar pair, which is the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Similar situation. Yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. It did look as if it was breaking this area to the upside, which it kind of did, where you can see at 10, it attempted to go up, but could not necessarily go up that much, where you can see the price attempted to actually give us that pullback coming in. But once it did, unfortunately, could not get all the way to this buyer's area. But you can see there was some small support and resistance area where it did end up reacting. And at 3 o'clock, that's when the market ended up attempting to actually go to the upside. So you can see the buys did work out quite nicely during the US session. So today, we will still be looking for buying opportunities, and we have adjusted the level slightly. You can see the area that we're at, we're within an area where the sellers, so no buying opportunity just yet, unless we do get this price being reached to the upside. So what we'll wait to see is a similar game plan with the euro against the Canadian dollar. If we do get the price breaching and we want a strong breach, and we want to see the sellers coming in slowly, we see the price holding above, then we should be able to look for buying opportunities. But for right now, since we're within an area where the sellers, don't be surprised if the price actually ends up coming down lower, giving us some sort of probe or price action signal within this buyer's area, hopefully within the market opening times. The same way this market ended up moving mainly during the US session, we could find that happening as well today. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. But for right now, we'll take note of if it breaks to the upside, definitely we'll be waiting for that pullback and the hold above for us to continue with the buys. But right now, let's wait and see what ends up happening. Okay, so hope that's clear on the British pound against the Canadian dollar. So moving on to the next Canadian dollar pair, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, yesterday our bias was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three highlighted areas that we did have yesterday. So initially, when we're having this session, the price looked as if it had actually breached and held below within this particular support and resistance area. So there was no buying opportunity just yet. We wanted to see whether or not the price is actually going to come back in, which you can see it actually did. So it came all the way back down, came very close towards this buyer's area, and it was there at around 3 o'clock. And you can see there was a buying opportunity at that point in time. Now, it did end up attempting to break this area to the upside, but it seems that where that seller's area, or at least where the seller did end up reacting, that's where the market held, and you can see the price coming down much, much lower. So today, we have adjusted the levels because you can see the New Zealand dollar is showing us a bit of weakness. But as I had pointed out, it could be pulling back to our main buyer's area, where you could find that this is where now the buyers end up taking off, mainly because enough sellers have right now been incited that the market is going to go down. So for us, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities today. You can see the way the market does seem to be struggling to break this level to the downside, which is a good sign for us. And it does seem to be attempting to show us some sort of probe. So we wait to see what ends up happening, where we could end up finding a nice trading opportunity. The same way the buyers are coming in here, we do end up getting the price giving us a pullback, and the price actually holds above, then we might find a very nice buying opportunity, and that could end up happening at 10 o'clock. So right now it's around 9:20. So we do have another 30 minutes to see so, but take note of the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. It does end up reaching this area to the downside, where the pullback comes in, but it comes back in and holds below, then this pair will fall off our watch list. So do take note of this, because at least if that does end up happening and you see the pullback coming in, at least within that area, you could end up having a much tighter stop loss within that particular area. Even if by the time it gets to this first problem area, you can see at least you still got a risk reward of 1:2. It does manage to continue going up higher. You can end up watching out for these levels, but also watch out for any area where the sellers have reacted from before. You should end up doing some sort of trade management. But you can see there's a lot of potential to the upside to give some very nice risk to reward. But obviously, at first, even if you decide to close within this area, it's still allowed, because remember the game plan over here is to be in and out of the markets and be able to consistently do that day in and day out. So hope that's clear. Let's wait and see how this pullback ends up coming in on the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next Canadian dollar pair we do have. Here we do have the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now in this kind of pair, yesterday we were looking for selling opportunities. Wanted to see whether or not we could end up getting a pullback coming in a bit higher, or if we are able to get the price breaching and holding below. Now you can see it unfortunately did not, where you can see the price ended up attempting to go to the upside, came within a small seller's area at around 3 o'clock, attempted to break this area to the downside. On the pullback though, the price has just come back in and held above. So that's the reason why this seemed to have been a fake price. So overall, we will still be looking for selling opportunities. You could find that we're still within this huge range, because you can remember that we did mention that we were bouncing between these two levels. This was just a probe, but the price never actually held above. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Either we can end up getting that selling opportunity all the way at the top, right here within the red support and resistance area for us to look for sales, but we'll wait to see how the pullback ends up coming in. But one thing to also take note of, you can see this is an area where the market has reacted from before multiple times, and you can see the price is right there. So this is not necessarily the best place to look for selling opportunities. Hopefully we can end up getting the price coming in a bit higher before we're able to look for those sales. But remember, do trade the Japanese yen pair with caution. We would be looking at it with caution. Wouldn't necessarily be our first pick, because remember the government intervention that did come in, we don't necessarily know whether or not they're going to come back in again today as well. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. But overall, following the market structure, the best place to look for the sell is at the top of the range. we do get the price breaking and holding below, then we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So I hope that's clear on the game plan of what we're looking at here. So if we move on to the next and last Canadian dollar pair we do have, here we do have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. And this kind of pair, it's a brand new entry on our watch list, and we will be looking for selling opportunities. Now, remember, we had a look at the other Swiss franc pairs, and we did see them showing a lot of strength, and we can clearly see the strength really coming in as we speak right now. So right now, as the price is attempting to break this area to the downside, this is a good sign for us, because remember, what we want to see is this pullback coming in. We want to see them coming in a bit slowly. We do see some sort of probe or price action signal and showing evidence that the price is actually holding below within this area. We could end up finding a very nice selling opportunity. Now, if you do manage to grab that sell, manage your trade within the area where the buy, or at least the price, starts giving a pullback. So if the market actually starts giving us that pullback within here, do some trade management within this area, because you could end up easily finding these buyers also still reactive. So that's the reason why we'd always encourage do some sort of trade management. If we are able to break this area to the downside where we see the Swiss franc still showing more strength, then we could see this price continue to come down lower. So wait to see what ends up happening. But right now, we're clearly seeing the Swiss franc showing a bit of strength all across the board. So that's a game plan of the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So you can see we've mixed and matched all the Canadian dollar pairs with all the pairs on the buy side. So right now, we're going to move on to the US dollar pairs and do the exact same thing. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So on this kind of pair, yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. There were small buying opportunities that did work out, mainly during the London session. You can see the illustration that we had pointed out, wanting to see if we could end up grabbing a buying opportunity, where initially this market looked as if it was breaking this area to the downside, but this was just the probe where the price came back in. There was a small hold above where it could end up actually grabbing a buying opportunity, taking it all the way to the top. But you can see once the US market came in and the price gave a pullback, showing us evidence we're holding above, the buyers couldn't necessarily take it, but once it breached to the downside, you can see once it breached and held below, this trade did end up giving us a bit of risk at that point in time. So today, you can clearly see the Australian dollar coming down much deeper. So it looks as if the Australian dollar is falling off our watch list, but this has just pulled back. Similar situation as the other Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar pair we had seen. They're possibly pulling back to an area of interest where the buyers could end up reacting. And this could be an incitement of all the sellers coming in. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. So we've adjusted the level slightly. Remember, we had a look at the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar, and it looked as if there was a probe coming in. And you can see something similar could potentially be happening here as well. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. If the price gives us a nice probe where the price actually ends up showing us that it's actually holding above. So we see aggressive buyers coming in, and we see a pullback, and the price actually holds above within this area. Then at that point in time, we could end up looking for a very nice buying opportunity, making sure to manage our trade within this problem area. So it would be a similar situation with the other pair, especially if it goes to the upside and we see the price holding above. Your stop loss doesn't need to be too far. Ideally, as long as it's below where that probe happened, even if you can see it getting to the first problem area, won't necessarily give us the best risk reward. 1:1.8, but at least if we are able to get the price coming in a bit higher, there is at least some high potential of at least a 1:3.6. But remember, that is only valid once the price comes in and falls above within this particular area. So wait to see what ends up happening on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So moving on, the next US dollar pair we do have, which is the euro against the US dollar. Similar situation yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. It's going to be the same situation today. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out, and you can see the trade worked out very nicely at 10 o'clock, where the price, after coming to the upside, we did get a pullback. Price showed us evidence that the price was actually holding above within this area, which you could have actually grabbed a very nice buying opportunity, making sure to manage your trade within this problem area at the top. So you can see during the US session, nothing much happened, but it could not necessarily break this area to the upside fully. And you can see once it came back in and the price held below, you can see the pullback that has been coming in. So overall, here, while bias is still going to be looking for buying opportunities, the levels will pretty much remain the same. As you can see right now, we're pulled back to the buyers area where the buyers reacted from before yesterday. We'll be very interested to see what ends up happening within this particular location. We do get some sort of probe or price action signal, or at least signs that the big boy buyers are actually going to show up. We could end up finding a very nice buying opportunity, making sure to manage our trade within the top area. But be aware that even if this market will not necessarily go up based on this price, there's a possibility we might need a better price. So you could find the price could end up coming all the way down to the bottom, but we have identified some small support and resistance area right here in the middle, where you could even easily find the market actually bouncing off within that area before the price ends up going to the upside. So watch out for these levels as the price ends up coming down, and let's wait and see how slow, or at least the slowdown of the sellers for the euro against the US dollar. So hope that's clear. If this ends up being a probe where the price doesn't actually break this level and comes back in, then we definitely will be able to find a nice buying opportunity on the euro against the US dollar. So I hope that's clear on this kind of pair. As we move on to the next kind of pair we do have, which is the British pound against the US dollar. Now, on this kind of pair, our bias yesterday was to look for buying opportunities, and you can see the three areas that we had highlighted. Now, unfortunately, could not get all the way to the main buyers area that we had hoped for. You can see the price actually from 10 o'clock just bounced off this small buyers area coming to the upside, which attempted to do the same thing at 3 o'clock. So it did seem as if we're in some sort of small range, bouncing between these two levels, where 3 it attempted to go up, but this seller's area does still seem to be holding. So overall, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities. We have adjusted the levels slightly. So the main sellers are still right there at the top, so you can clearly see they're still holding the market. So no buying opportunity anywhere close to that. Right now, the price is pulling back. We do seem as if we're attempting to break this area to the downside. Remember, if we are able to get some sort of probe or the price actually shows buyers coming back in and the price holding above, then we should be able to look for buying opportunities. But if the price holds below this area, there's a high probability we could be coming back down all the way to this main support and resistance area. This is based on a larger time frame where you can see that as the price came up, the main buyers here, and there's a possibility, as we've seen it many times on the chart before, could come back to this support and resistance area that wasn't fully tested, and you could easily find the price taking off from there. But for right now, since the sellers are the ones who are pushing down, let's wait to see the momentum of these sellers die out before we're able to catch those buying opportunities on the British pound against the US dollar. So let's wait and see what ends up happening. When the pullback is coming in, this is a very good sign for us. Because obviously, since we want to buy, and these prices, at least they're coming down, giving us a discount, it is a very good thing for us. So moving on to the next kind of pair we do have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, yesterday our bias was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three highlighted areas that we did end up pointing out. Now, unfortunately, you can see at 10, just missed this area to the upside. It attempted to go up. Unfortunately, the market was quite choppy. It was later on, as you can see, once the price came down, reached and held below, there was no trading opportunity just yet. But we have noticed something to do with the New Zealand dollar pairs. Remember, we've had a look at the New Zealand dollar as well as the Australian dollar pairs, where they do seem to be coming back to a major buyer's area. So wait to see what ends up happening. If the price breaches and falls below this red support and resistance area, this pair will definitely fall off our watch list. But you can see some similar correlation when we ended up having a look at the other New Zealand dollar pair, the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. It does seem as if it's attempting to do something similar, where it has attempted to show as if it's going to the downside. But if we do end up getting this price coming back in and the price actually holding above, we could end up finding a nice buying opportunity. But remember, if the price breaches and falls below this area, this pair will fall off our watch list. So wait to see for the correlation, which is already a good sign because we're starting to see a bit of it. Remember, when we go back to the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar, what's happening? They do look a bit similar, where they've all gone down to a buyer's area, and they do seem as if they're struggling to make any new lows. There's some buyers coming in. So we'll be very interested to see how these New Zealand dollar pairs react if we're able to get those buying opportunities. But remember, since we're at the extreme area, it just breaks and holds below this area, this pair will fall off our watch list. So take note of that, and remember, be aware of the market opening times 10, 3, and 4:30. So moving on to the next kind of pair we do have, the next US dollar pair. We do have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Nothing much happened yesterday. As you can see, the price did end up just ranging between these two levels. You wanted to see a breach to the downside. As you can see, the price at some point in time was all the way here. But on that pullback, it never actually held below. So don't necessarily get caught out in such situations where you could be looking for a sell or start jumping in on a blind sell right there if you haven't gotten confirmation that the price is actually held below. So probes happen all the time. So that's the reason why we usually use them as a very good indicator. Because after this probe, you can see the way the price has actually started coming up higher. But overall, we're still going to be looking for these selling opportunities. Remember, we do seem to be in some sort of range, bouncing between these two levels. So obviously, the best place to look for the sell is at the top of the range. But we do have an area right here in the middle, where if we do end up getting this price coming back in, where it's not able to actually continue going up higher, it comes back in and holds below, then we might be able to find a nice selling opportunity there. But for now, let's wait and see if the price can still come all the way to the top within the seller's area. Hopefully, we can get some sort of probe or price action signal for us to look for selling opportunities within that area. So let's wait and see what ends up happening. But remember, dealing with the yens, do trade this pair with caution. Now, moving on to the last currency pair we do have. Right here, we do have the US dollar against the Swiss franc, brand new entry on our watch list. And you can see the three areas that we are going to be pointing out today. Right now, we're looking at the market structure. Yes, the price came down very aggressive. The buyers have started coming up in terms of a pullback. But you can see this pullback has come in, and we do seem to be in some sort of range, bouncing between these two levels. So overall, we'll be looking for selling opportunities. Hopefully, we can grab a selling opportunity at the top of this range, making sure to manage our trade within the bottom of this range. But overall, since we're still within a seller's market, there's still that possibility that the price can end up reaching the range to the downside. So you could easily find that as the price ends up coming down lower, or you could end up seeing this price coming down. If you do see the price holding below, then we could end up finding a nice selling opportunity, making sure to manage our trade within this problem area. But for right now, let's hope to see if we can end up getting the price at least a bit higher for us to look for those sells. And remember, if the price breaks and falls below this red support and resistance area, this pair will fall off our watches. So I hope that's clear. So that's it for all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched the Canadian dollar as well as the US dollar with all these pairs on the buy side. So right now, let's have a look at the indices before we do have a look at gold and silver. So we start off with the NAS 100, the NASDAQ. Now, yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities, and you can see the way this market did end up reacting. So we wanted to look to see if we can end up grabbing a selling opportunity within this area. But remember, we did point out that the price breaks this area to the upside and falls above, then at that point in time, we will be looking for buying opportunities. But you can see, and the price came up, and it looks as if it really went to the upside. So guaranteed, many people were looking for buying opportunities there. But you can see the price pulled back. It never held above. In fact, it was just a huge probe where it came back in and held below. So there was a selling opportunity, although this was around later on, around nearly 8 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. And you can see the price still managed to get all the way back down towards this buyer's area. But unfortunately, you can see the price has still now managed to come back up. So overall, we'll still basically be looking for these selling opportunities based on these three areas, because you can clearly see this red support and resistance area has not been broken just yet. If the price breaks and falls below this red support and resistance area, we will be looking for buying opportunities then. But for right now, let's wait to see what ends up happening within this area. If we can get some sort of probe or price action signal, or at least some signs that the big boy sellers are actually interested in looking for selling opportunities here, then definitely we might find some nice sells, making sure to manage our trade within the buyer's area. But be aware, if the price breaks and falls above, then that point in time, we will be looking for buying opportunities on the NAS 100. So let's wait and see what ends up happening. But remember, this pair is mainly active during the US session. You can see how small the candles were, hardly any activity during the London session, the Asian as well as the London session. But as soon as 3 o'clock comes in, the US market opens, we can clearly see the size of the candles does end up changing. They do end up becoming bigger, and you find these bigger moves that are able to come in. So right now, as you can see the way the market is moving, this is just basically due to the fact that the Asian big boys are not really as interested in this kind of pair. Wait and see what ends up happening once the US market does end up open. So hope that's clear, and we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the NASDAQ. So as we move on to the US 30 or the Dow Jones. So in this kind of pair, yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the price did end up continuing to grind up higher within this particular seller's area. It looks as if it attempted to break this area to the upside, but it was quite choppy. So this one would have been a bit difficult to get, whether or not it was a 3 or around 4:30 or so. You can see the market seems to have now found some sort of range during the US session, just bouncing between these two levels. So overall, since the price is ranging between these levels, and within a range, the rules are pretty simple. Look for buying opportunities at the bottom or selling opportunities at the top. But since overall the bias here is to look for buying opportunities, it might end up being better rather than looking for that counter trade, waiting for some sort of pullback where the price ends up coming back within this buyer's area for us to look for buying opportunities. Alternatively, if we do find the price actually continuing to go to the upside, we see the price holding above, we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the Dow Jones as well. So let's wait and see what ends up happening. And as this pullback is coming in, let's hope we can end up getting it a bit deeper and see how the buyers are going to react within these proper areas. And remember, since we're purely technical within the NASDAQ, or at least the indices as well as gold and silver, if we do get the price breaking and holding below the red support and resistance area, we will now switch to sellers and start looking for selling opportunities. But as long as we're holding above the red support and resistance area, our bias is to look for buying opportunities. So I hope that's clear on the Dow Jones. So as you move on to the fan favorites, so gold and silver. So we'll start off here with silver. Now, yesterday on silver, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Remember, I did point out that this market seemed to be in some sort of range. And you can see during around 8:30 or 9, the price had started coming down lower. Remember, even during the session, actually at 10 o'clock, wanted to see whether or not we could end up getting this price breaching and holding below. That was an option for us to continue looking for sales. But you can see the price never broke below to this downside. In fact, at 3 o'clock, or in fact 4:30, it actually ended up coming back up higher, came back towards the seller's area, gave a probe where the price ended up confirming that the price is actually holding below, and you could have been able to look for a selling opportunity within that location. So overall today, the bias here is still to look for selling opportunities. As you can see, the market structure hasn't changed. So as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area, our bias is to look for selling opportunities. Right now, since we are still within the range, we do have the top of the range right there, the bottom of the range here. And right now, if you notice, we're just in the middle of both of them. So we don't necessarily want to jump in on any trading opportunity just yet. Let's wait to see if we can get the price coming back in a bit higher for us to look for selling opportunities within this particular location. If we can, make sure we manage our trade within the bias area. If we don't find the market actually reacting from here, we could easily still find the price coming all the way to this extreme area before we're able to look for selling opportunities. So don't be surprised if the price still comes all the way back to the top. But overall, as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area, our bias will be to look for selling opportunities. But if we do get the price breaching and holding above, then at that point in time, we definitely should be able to jump in on buying opportunities on silver. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. But right now, the game plan is quite simple. Let's wait to see how the price approaches the top of the range. So I hope that's clear on silver. So as you move on to the last pair that we look at, which is gold. Now on gold, yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities, and the buys really did work out quite well. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out. And yesterday, the market looked as if it was breaking this area to the downside. Did point out if the price holds below, then chances are we could be coming back down towards the main bias. But if the price comes back in and we don't see the price holding below, let's wait for a pullback to come in, which you can see it did, and we could have looked for a buying opportunity there. You can see that trade did work out quite well, even if you managed to trade within the seller's area, where it did end up giving us some small pullback, coming back to this support and resistance area that was holding on at 4:30. That's when the price did end up taking off again to the upside. So overall here, our bias is going to still be looking for buying opportunities. You can see where we put an area where the sellers, and we did end up getting a pullback, coming back to the support and resistance area. And unfortunately, we just missed that trade during the Asian session. As you can see, the price is already coming up higher. So the fact that we're already within this, very close to this seller's area, we're not going to jump in on any buying opportunities just yet. We need one of two things to happen, either a breach to the upside. So you could end up finding this price breaching this area to the upside and holding above for us to continue looking for buying opportunities. Alternatively, if you don't necessarily see the buyers are able to take it off to the upside, and you find that these sellers are still reacting, you might find that this area might not necessarily be good enough. So you could easily see the price coming down a bit lower, looking as if it's breaking this area to the downside, could even bounce off this particular area right here, where you see the price looking as if it's holding to the downside, but you can end up reaching back up. And you could end up finding a nice buying opportunity. We wait and see what ends up happening. But if we do end up seeing something like this, we'll be very interested to see how the market ends up reacting within one of these bias areas. But remember, as long as we're holding above the red support and resistance area, the bias is to look for buy. If you're below the red support and resistance area, our bias at that time is to look for selling opportunities. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening, but definitely right now, even when you look at the way the strength of the bias came in, and right now the way they're coming in, they don't necessarily look as strong, and especially the way the sellers came down. So I wouldn't be surprised if we still do end up getting a pullback, but due to the fact that we're very close to the sellers area. But remember, if the sellers are not interested in get the price breaching and holding above, definitely we should be good to go to continue looking for those buying opportunities on gold. So that's it for all the kinds of pairs, including all gold and silver. So this is the watch list for today. There's not necessarily going to be much of a change in the watch list. We do have some euro fundamentals. So around midday, so around 12 o'clock, you end up expecting a lot of volatility on the euro pairs. If there are any changes to the watch list, we will end up informing you on the Telegram channel. So do make sure you also join, or at least are part of the Telegram channel. I think there should be a link in the chat box for that. So I guess that's it for me. I can be able to address any questions on the Q&A section if there are any. Not seeing much, but I'm seeing here Caroline Chedi is saying, please confirm the date on the watch list. Oh, yeah, please confirm the date on the watch list. The pair shows the difference, but the date seems to be wrong. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I think missed that earlier. So it is Tuesday 16th. Apologies for that. So this is the watch list for today. Thanks for that, Caroline. Yeah, at least that has been sorted. So this is the watch list for today, Tuesday the 16th. Apologies, just forgot to change the date right there. So not seeing any more questions, which is okay. Remember, at least we do have a few minutes now to be able to jump onto the charts. Now, remember, we still have the amplified program, Afriforex program, the AMP, which we will be open for the next 2 months. So the classes for the next 2 months should be open. So feel free to sign up if you're interested. So it's at least the July classes have already started. So there will be the August and September classes are available. So wherever you want to train, you can be able to choose one. Just put in your details, and at least we'll reach out to you. We're not expecting you to end up making any payment now. We just want to show, or at least to see how many people are actually interested. And remember, in order for you to sign up for this, do make sure that you have done the Afriforex Masterclass course. Because remember, it is a prerequisite for this because we are going to go really deep into the entries, and rather than focusing too much on the basics that we need to end up learning. So the basics and having that good foundation is in the masterclass. Then afterwards, now we're really going to now come into the mentorship, teaching you exactly what you need to do, looking for the market opportunities as we'll be sitting together for a whole month during the London session, looking for opportunities together. So if you're very interested, feel free to sign in for this. There should be a link on the chat box, or you can end up going to afriforex.com. Our website, you should be able to find it on the webpage. So let's see, yeah. So you can see at the top right here, we do have the programs. We have the Amplified Master program, so you can be able to enroll for that. So I'm seeing another question. So I'm seeing Dennis Wamboy saying, hello, can you repeat NASDAQ, please? No problem, I can do that for you just now. So for the NAS 100, NASDAQ, overall, we're going to be still looking for selling opportunities. You can see this red support and resistance area has still held where the market has probed multiple times. I think it's in a higher time frame, you'll be able to see the way the price ended up coming down very aggressive. Look at the way the pullback came in. The sellers reacted from there. The buyers attempting to go up. Huge probe where the price is still holding within this particular area. So we're still expecting the price to continue coming down lower. So that's the reason why right now we wait to see what ends up happening. If we can end up getting some sort of probe or pullback, some probe or price action signal within this particular area. If you see the price doing something similar and comes back in and holds below, then you could end up finding a nice selling opportunity. But one thing I think, since you are trading the NASDAQ, be aware that it's mainly active during the US session. So even though we're mentioning 10, 3, and 4:30, most likely it could end up moving either at 3 or at 4:30. So just take note of where the market is within one of those specific times. So I hope that's clear for you, Dennis. So I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. At least we do end up having a number of minutes to be able to look to see what opportunities could be setting up. Remember, we had a look at the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar, which we could end up finding a pullback, as well as the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So if you do see the pullbacks coming in, so you can be able to go to a smaller time frame, you can see the price holding below. Above within these areas, you might be able to find some nice buying opportunity on both of them. So just take note of that. So I guess that's it from me and from us. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. Hope you guys are finding value in these sessions. Remember, if you have any suggestions, queries, just feel free to let us know, because remember, we're doing these sessions for you guys. So we don't necessarily want to come here and give you unnecessary information or information that you're not interested in. We want to try and be straight to the point and give you guys as much value as possible. So feel free to send those queries into us. Our contact details are right there in the chat box. So once again, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Hope you guys have an amazing trading day. God bless. Cheers, guys, and bye for now.